It's November the 22nd, and you know why you're here, so let's kick this off right and introduce the players. Hey, I'm Gerissar, a PvP Padawan.
Hey, I'm TreesapJake, and I'm a shaman enthusiast. And today we've got some fantastic guests with us to talk about something real special. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce them, I guess.
Yeah, you know them better than I do. I only play like the 900 bracket, man. You're the one that plays with these expert players.
I try to. Starting off today, we've got a fellow YouTube content creator, Mmarkers, who's a gladiator resto druid main. I mean, is that even the case anymore? We're about to find out. So welcome, Mmarkers. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to talk some Evoker stuff because I feel like every time I log on, I learn something new, some weird interaction or something like that. So excited to learn some more and just talk over and see what we can find out.
Yeah, hell yeah. Sounds good. And also joining us is Nethy. Is a gladiator warlock switched to evoker pretty much for the Dragonflight beta, and you kind of come in crashing into the high MMR, kind of causing a bit of upset with some people, but you've been doing fantastic. So yeah, welcome, Nethy. Really happy to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Our pleasure, I think. Are you going
to... We hope so.
Hopefully.
Sorry, that came across wrong.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm seriously excited. I mean, we're here. Dragonflight is just around the corner. I mean, what, 6 days from launch of Dragonflight? Evoker being that new class. You got the 2 specs. Tonight, we're just going to talk about the Preservation spec. But before we actually get fully into Preservation and really diving into that, I always like to talk about what we've been up to for the last 2 weeks since our last show. I'm actually going to throw it to you, Mmarkers. I know you've been busy on socials, you've been busy on YouTube, you've been busy in game. What have you all been doing?
Trying out everything, man. Trying to find what I want to do. Trying out different healers. Trying to give good feedback because Dragonflight seems a little bit such a drastic change between Shadowlands and Dragonflight. So just trying to figure out what's gonna work and how we can make the game better together.
All right, I like it. And Jake, how about you? What have you been up to?
What have I been up to? I've been deep in a Wrath of the Lich King hole, I guess. I've actually recently emerged from said hole, and I've been enjoying a pre-patch. Well, I've been semi-enjoying it. It's been a bit all over the place. I think I've been really I haven't really done much of the beta as much as I wanted to, mostly because I kind of want to save my energy for when the actual expansion comes out. But I've gone on to the pre-patch at least to kind of give that a go, and I've been giving a lot of time to Elemental Shaman, a lot of time to Shadow Priest, and I've been really enjoying both of them, which is really, really positive. And I've experienced many things, many one-shots, a lot of different feelings. I've been really enjoying Solo Shuffle. I definitely think that's probably one of my most favorite new features that they've added. So it's just been quite enlightening.
I'm just kind of curious, in like next expansion, are you going to be throwing around your solo queue rating achievements, like as if you make like Gladiator? Is that going to be the thing now? Are you going to be throwing that around like your
like 2-7 in Solo Shuffle? So you kind of use that as your rate. I don't know if that's I feel like it's nobody. You can't really tell the difference now. Surely I don't think
I don't know if it does.
No.
Yeah.
No.
I hope they can equalize them a little bit better because Solo Shuffle seems to be going a little bit nuts on because you're gain rating so fast, so people are so much higher rated so quick, and you have players that are 27 plus in Solo Shuffle and they're at 22 in twos and stuff. So hopefully they can equate that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It seems on pre-patch especially there's an MMR bug going on right now where like the MMR just scales really, really high. Like there's people being at 2-4 MMR in their first games on fresh characters.
Yeah.
Which is definitely a rough dive for people trying to learn a new class, especially.
Yeah, you don't think that's fitting for somebody with 1600 rating to be thrown up against a 2400?
I would say you would probably get a bad first impression if you're trying the new class and you're just getting slammed by a guy who's been playing his Demon Hunter for 5 years.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
I will
PTSD
note
for that.
that right now, because it's in pre-patch, they haven't instituted the gear gate into solo shuffle either. So you can queue once season 1 actually starts. You have to have a certain minimum eye level in order to actually queue into it. Right now, you can just go in a fresh character with like eye level 135 and just get squished. So I don't know if I wouldn't say that's a bug. It's just a feature not implemented yet, I guess.
Seems to be a lot of those. I think.
Yeah, there's a few of those. I guess, Nethy, though, what have you been up to, man?
Oh, I've been queuing a lot of Soul Shuffle on both Warlock, Priest, and then like very recently Evoker. It started mostly with when pre-patch came out. I wanted to just test out the Warlock changes, and then it ended up with me being in game with 3 Demon Hunters every single solo shuffle. So I was like, okay, I'll just find something else to do before I tilt before the pre-patch comes out. And then I heard from a friend that they had changed the Echo. So Echo on Preservation used to have a cast time, and it made the class feel really, really bad. So I went to change those test out those changes, and now I have like 2,000 rounds played on between both pre-patch and beta. So I've not really played much else than Preservation since then.
All right. So do you now identify as a Preservation main?
I'll wait and see if like on launch if I just get like the pull to go back to Warlock or how it ends up going.
So waiting for nerfs then, yeah. That's
Yeah.
You can't resist playing it at this point. It's so good.
We'll see. We'll see after the nerfs to Preservation, because there's definitely some coming.
I don't know. I don't like. Well, we'll talk about it in the news. Like, there's a round of tuning that they just did, but Evoker wasn't touched, and I thought Evoker being the hero class of Dragonflight, I'm kind of expecting it to be powerful up until like we're probably going to see season 2 before we see any actual major.
You think it's gonna? You think it's gonna be the new Demon Hunter, basically?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, gotta make money, man.
Yeah, which was it's the new. So what's this? Green is the new purple, which was the new red, because DK was the same thing back in Wrath. Like
season 5, yeah.
Like it went.
I feel like Monk kind of got skipped on the.
It's not a hero class, that's why.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It wasn't worthy.
No.
You just needed your orb click bot, dude, and then you were good. Then you were hero class.
Yeah, true. Yeah. It's all about how you perceive it. Yeah, that's it.
Exactly. Well, I'll admit I've actually like I've logged into WoW, but I haven't really been doing much. I think I did some transmog farms and still trying to get still working on getting invincible, still running that thing on the weekly, but that's about it really.
It is definitely a kind of cooldown pre-patch. There's now they've spread it out quite a lot, the content, and and then the content there is the invasions are not like the most exciting thing. Like I could definitely understand if people don't like feel the need to quickly do like all those invasions for what's like essentially like questing green transmog, isn't it?
Yeah.
I will say it, because I wasn't in a big rush to get into the invasions. I wish I'd actually realized how much of a experience farm they are, because just hop on a sub max level, run over to one of those invasions, especially when one of the world bosses pop up or whatever, and you're looking at a level just sitting there, and you don't have to do much. You just like tag a target, and then everybody else does the work because there's so many other people farming. you get blues, you get the currency, and then once you get to max level, you have the currency to go and buy some 278 gear or two. I mean, it's a pretty easy farm if you're looking for that. So
It's definitely made to like catch up
Oh, yeah.
old players returning and new
Oh, yeah.
players trying it out, because they had the free weekend as well recently, didn't they?
They did.
Yeah.
So, question: did anybody see their friends list explode over the weekend with the free weekend for people that hadn't? No. Okay. Yeah. Me
I did.
neither.
No, I did. I did.
No.
I had a guy log in the other day who I hadn't seen in 2 years, since like the end of BFA. And
Wow.
I whispered him, going like, "Dude, it's so good to see you." He was like, "I'm just back for the weekend, mate. I just want to play Dracthyr and see what's happening." And I was like, "Okay, so I'll see you in another 2 years then in the next expansion." I think that's one of those cases. But no, it was nice to see people and talk to people I hadn't spoken to in a long time.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't see any. Like, I saw some people say that they're new or back to the game, and that like got some people onto the guild, but I didn't see anybody on my friends list. Markers, did you see anybody new in your friends list?
Not that I can think of. No.
Okay.
Same old.
All right.
All your friends are just the same people that keep going and going and going.
Yeah.
Keep coming back.
I feel like the people I have on my friends list at this point are the ones that are just hopelessly addicted to the game.
Maybe that's my
Indeed.
problem too. Maybe that's my problem too. All
Yeah.
right, let's move on into the next segment here. Let's get into the need, greed, and pass, and we'll find out what Jake has for us as soon as I click this. There we go. Jake, why don't you tell us what you got this week?
So we're talking about evokers today, and there's a specific interaction in one of their sort of buffs that they give called Blessing of the Bronze. And what's really cool about it is that depending on which class you are, it gives you a sort of cooldown on a kind of a movement ability, right? And obviously some are better than others, depending on which class you are. In my opinion, the priest one is pretty average. Just taken with leap of faith. But I picked out 3 of the ones that I think were pretty cool, and I think having a sort of reduced cooldown on those would be really awesome. And the idea is that for those at home that haven't really seen us do a need greed pass before, is that you need to choose 1 to need, 1 to greed, and 1 to pass. And just to think about it either from a class perspective, from your own perspective, just whatever you think suits you. So Blessing the Bronze, giving kind of lower cooldown on Fell Rush, Blink, or the Demonic Circle Teleport. Those are the 3 that I've picked out.
All right. So the demonic circle teleport, is that to the cooldown for putting down a teleport, or is that the cooldown for porting?
I think that's porting.
That's the port, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
yeah, because there's a cooldown on how often you can do that.
Yeah. So I think teleports you to your demonic circle. Yeah. So that's the one that kind of removes all your the sort of movement slowing effects.
Yeah.
And teleports you to it. So yeah, that's got a 30-second cooldown. I don't know what it takes it down to. I think it may be like 25. But
I think it's the buff is definitely it's 15%.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Any maths whiz? I don't know, maybe 27. We'll go for that. That's
times the 6, divide by 3, carry the
brain
2.
power.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go first because I identify as warlock, so I'm gonna go immediately with the demonic circle teleport. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's of course. And then now I'm a bit of a tossed up on the Fell Rush and the Blink though, because screw mages and screw demon hunters. Like I don't think I want them to get any more buffs.
Yeah, that's why I chose it. I chose it for that very reason.
Damn you. So I think just knowing that demon hunters are really strong right now, I'm gonna pass on the Fell Rush and at least greed that the Blink gets a little bit of a better cooldown as well. Because at least give the mage a little bit of something, because they're a little weak right now. I think especially the arcane and the frost, they need a little bit of help. So
yeah, I don't know. I don't know about Arcane, but but maybe some of
sorry.
the others do.
I guess okay, maybe I'm wrong. I know Frost needs some help. Okay,
I,
but
I
yeah.
think all mage specs need help. Maybe I don't know. That's at least that's what mage players keep saying to me. So
Wow.
Uh,
Yeah, you see, I always take somebody who's been a S tier when they're not feeling S tier the next expansion. I take any of their complaints with a huge grain of salt.
yeah, I think that's
Our RMP is in the worst state since the last time it was good.
the last time that yeah. Cool. Well, Nethy, what about you? Which one will you go for? Need,
Oh,
greed, pass.
I think currently demonic teleport and warlock is like very very strong. And demonic teleport gets you completely out of danger if you use it correctly. So that is like definitely the most overpowered interaction between the two. So probably pass on teleport because I think if that gets an even bigger cooldown reduction, it's gonna be ridiculous. We also have a talent that we'll get to later that like resets the cooldown on the thing that Blessing of the Bronze affects. Blink. I think most mages nowadays play the stun break blink.
So normal blink.
Yeah, so normal blink. So like, I feel like if you're a rogue main or warrior or something like that, someone being able to break out of stuns more consistently is even more annoying. So probably greed on blink and then need on fell rush because I feel like demon hunters have so much mobility right now that adding a slightly shorter cooldown on fell rush won't actually like change how overpowered they are by that much.
Mm-hmm. So you've kind of gone from like a sort of what you
Yeah.
would, well, you'd like, what would you'd kind of think needs to be sort of like, you know, what you prefer to have sort of that sort of effect on.
Yeah,
see.
I feel like if demonic circle, like the demonic circle going to a shorter cooldown is gonna be, especially with soulburn they have right now, where like if they soulburn before they teleport, they get a 5-second freedom with a 50% movement speed. So the shorter
I don't
cooldown
see a problem
circle
with
is the harder it is to catch a warlock.
There's some
that. I
bias
don't see
there,
a
I think.
problem with that. Yeah, come on.
Oh, I just realized we've got 2 warlock players in here now. So I mean, oh, I'm sorry, Preservation Evokers. You changed me in. Sorry, I forgot about that. But yeah, that's fair enough. That's interesting. I like the way that you've kind of gone for that in a sense of not what you'd maybe need for your character, but what you'd like to see kind of really have that major
Yeah.
effect in the gameplay, which is an interesting way. Cool, Marcus. What about you, buddy?
I'm gonna agree with Yersar on I think I would go with need on the port, and greed on the blink, and then fell rush. Would be the pass. I did play a lot of. I actually played with a warrior. I was playing with Bajira the other day, and I was playing Time Spiral a lot, and that was awesome with the warrior. I can only imagine with the warlock, you combine it with like rescue, like he ports once, they get grip back, and then you give it to him, port again, and then you could rescue him again, and like, oh my goodness! And then you position yourself well with that stuff. It could be a game changer. We won so many games off of like because I had his cooldown of leap tracked, and they get heroic leap. And like he was versing another evoker who was just all over the place, and he would leap to the target, the guy would hover away, and I'd give him another leap, and then he would get him, and then charge him, and then kill him. It was so satisfying.
Insane. That sounds so much fun.
I know the interaction with that. Unfortunately, I feel like on the beta we didn't really get to use it too well because everyone was just kind of playing solo shuffle and doing their own thing. But you coordinate that with someone. I did it when I played a lot of Shadow Priest 2s with Evoker and being able to grip with it, and it was a blast. So I think Port would probably come in clutch for those type of moments. And then Blink, alternatively, kind of what Nethy was saying with the stun, being able to just get him out of all these stuns and just continue the mobility of keeping your casters safe. And then Fell Rush, Demon Hunters,
Yeah. In the bin. That's fair enough. No, that's really interesting. Obviously that's the what was the cooldown for the reset called again? It was you mentioned it just then.
Spiral. That's
Time
2
Spiral.
minutes.
Yeah,
it's
that's
2
sick.
minutes.
I didn't realize that was a thing actually until you just mentioned it, and that's really cool.
Because it's because people don't have the talent points for it right now in pre-patch.
I see. Yeah, that would make sense.
So you'll see it a lot once it goes to live. I'm pretty sure
I think
because
they'll definitely keep some interaction.
especially when you're like on voice coordinating it, it's gonna be a very
Oh
very
yeah.
strong cooldown.
Oh, yeah. I was
Mhm.
about to say, obviously, because Marcus, you mentioned not being able to explore as much with Bajira because obviously everyone's doing solo shuffle. Do you
Yeah,
think
well,
that?
this was on retail too, because I never got a chance to one on beta because I wasn't
Mm,
able to do it in solo shuffle.
yeah, of course, because obviously on beta everyone is just testing solo shuffle, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's not that much going on in threes and twos.
Hmm.
Do you guys think that will pick up? Do you think people will move towards it, or do you think solo shuffle is going to see probably the majority of it? Out of curiosity.
I think it's hit and miss. Like it's great for it's like a oh my goodness. I had a whole YouTube video on this rant about the how healing feels so brutal outside of an evoker right now.
Yeah.
Like it's like punishing, and then you have that on top of like hopefully these MMR issues are kind of fixed, and it's a pre-patch issue where like you can be 2K and you're queuing it to a guy who is 200 rating, and then it's a lose-lose. You either win every game and you gain nothing, or you lose even if you win even maybe 4 and you still lose rating. And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, what was the point of even playing?
Yeah.
So hopefully they can fix these issues because if that's the case, I think it'll do fine. But I think twos will definitely be its own thing, just because it feels like a completely different game a lot of the times twos compared to solo shuffle. I think solo shuffle, if anything, will take some of the participation away from threes.
Mm. I think that's fair enough. I
I
think that's
think
fair enough.
on the low end, as in the like under 2-4 ratings, it's definitely gonna take a lot of participation out, because I think if a new player comes in, they're usually either just looking to like play a little bit of PvP, or they're like chasing the elite set.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think the reward structure, where they've made the rewards the same for solo shuffle and for constructed threes, might hurt the low end a little bit, and that'll like push down everyone else. So I imagine the Glad mount, maybe not season one, because season one is usually very popular and loads of
Yeah.
people playing. But
Mhm.
maybe later on, it might cascade into people just playing solo shuffle instead of threes, and the only ones really pushing threes are the ones who are going for the mount uh,
Yeah.
Mhm.
or the title, and
Yeah.
then threes will, for like most people, will just be the, oh, I want to play with my friend's bracket and not the bracket you push seriously on.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I think that's pretty fair enough. I think we've seen that in the last 2 seasons as well. Obviously, that where participation has dropped out, maybe not because of solo shuffle in general, but it's clear that if there is an attention somewhere else, maybe whether that's sort of classic or something else, like another game perhaps, we do see participation go down. So it'll be interesting. I definitely think, I mean, for content creators, this is, a goldmine, because people will just want, let's talk about why there's no interaction here and interaction elsewhere. So I'll be really interested to know about that. But anyway, I guess it's my turn.
Mhm.
I'm going to go for something slightly different.
Hmm.
I'm going to go from the perspective of Shaman. I'm going to need on Blink because I feel I die most of the time in stuns. So if I could get out of a stun and have that reduced, so I can kind of line that up with a lot of big stuns, then I would be really really happy with that alongside all of my other mobility. I'm then obviously going to greed Demonic Circle teleport, because it would be cool to teleport places and then kind of like lasso people or teleport knock or something like that. Anything really cool. And then I'm going to pass on Fell Rush just because Demon Hunters. So yeah, stick with the trend.
Feel like the Fell Rush inclusion has tainted the pool a little bit.
I think so. Maybe it was meant to be difficult, but it turned out to be really easy.
No matter how hard we try, there's always like one that ends up being a throwaway. Like
Yeah.
regardless of whether it's planned or not, it always ends up being one. It's kind of funny. Well,
Does happen that way.
I'm going to throw this out to the listeners. So this was actually really important because, again, we got some more heroic bundle keys that we're going to be giving away. One's going to be on Twitter later this week. One we're giving away live on this show. And the third we're going to be giving away on the Discord server with the Need, Greed, and Pass. So if you want a shot at winning that one, you have to head over to the Discord server for bonus roll production and interact with the Need, Greed, and Pass thread there. And we'll draw that one later this week. Obviously, before Dragonflight launches, because that would we don't want to make you wait until after that. That would just be wrong. But in the meantime, let's get into the WoW PvP events and talk about what we know is happening in the near future.
Get in there and fight! Stop hiding!
All right. So the only ones we really know, Dalaran Gaming, always doing the 5v5 1v1s. I think Flark is going to be doing some more 3v3 solo queue shuffle or solo solo queue tournaments, but he hasn't announced anything again recently, so I don't know. And the other one is the Variety Show. Episode number 2 of the Variety Show is happening on December the 10th and the 11th. That's going to be a leveling race, a dragon riding relay, the Dragon Isles Expedition, a Mythic Plus showcase, and Dragonflight, which is going to be, or Dragon Fight, sorry, 2v2 Evoker only. so I'm going to ask you guys, being Evoker mains now, or assumed, what do you think that, what team makeup would be best? Do you think double Devastation plus Preservation? What about double Preservation?
I mean, if they allow double Preservation, then definitely double Preservation, because like it's the damage is like, I mean, obviously Devastation does more damage than Preservation, but it's honestly not far off in terms of burst.
That's kind of what I was wondering, because that's my understanding, is that Preservation actually does damage,
and it's easy to do. It's just 2 buttons, just boop boop, and then everything blows up.
On beta, we've had to do like gentlemen's agreements of like, no one plays the damage spec, because otherwise it's just 2-second games where no one has fun.
So obviously, if I don't know, I haven't checked the actual official wording on this. Is it you can be any evoker? Let's have a look. What does it say? It says this. It literally says just evokers. So I mean, obviously it says we're inviting 8 gladiators, so that's clearly predetermined. But I mean, that you're right there. They could literally be 2 preservation evokers versus 2 preservation evokers if they wanted to, because it's not specified. But that'll be interesting. A real proper Dragonflight.
I had a 1v1 yesterday versus me as Preservation versus a Devastation. I will tell you that game was awful, like terribly long, because no one, like everyone runs the immunity. Everyone was running the immunity hover thing, and no one can slow each other. They're just around the circles the whole time, and you can't get a cast off. So hopefully it'll end in time. Let's say that.
Yeah, quite literally.
Not be too lame.
Do you think? I mean, that's an interesting thing, like to say. Like, do you think with haste that would maybe not be like so much of an issue? Because I know at the start of expansions, haste tends to be quite low. Just obviously because in terms of gearing and everything. I definitely felt that at the beginning of Shadowlands. Do you think there will be, if you got like, maybe that would change if you had a bit more haste, or if you were? I know obviously you stack mastery with Evoker, but do you think if you like, I don't know, had a bit more like sort of extra haste lying around, do you think that'd be easier, or whether maybe something might change in that regard?
In terms of catching people, or
well, like just casting on people, with like, because it's easy to kind of move away and kite. Do you think people will have that if they have less cooldown reduction? Less global cooldowns.
That's very hard to tell, actually.
Yeah. Maybe a question for another time then.
Well, the problem is that the tier sets have no haste. There's only one piece, I think, with haste, if you even wanted to go haste. Because once you run tier, it's literally, I think 3 out of the 5 pieces are crit mastery, I want to say. And one of them is only one with verse, and it's like the low end verse. So it's like you don't really get that. I hope they eventually change things like that, because you're kind of pigeonholed into certain stats.
So with the tier sets, is that PvP tier sets?
They're all the same stats regardless.
They're all the same stats regardless. Oh.
Yeah, it's like in season 4 with the creation catalyst. That's how you're gonna make the PvP tier set.
Got it. Yeah. I mean, that's a shame, because I saw that there were different classes that had different amounts of versatility. Yeah. Which is a bit of a shame. Hopefully, maybe that gets fixed. I mean, maybe if enough people talk about it, maybe if Zico or Venruki talk about it on Twitter, maybe they'll change their minds.
What are you
guys.
I
talking
feel-
about? We get influence. We got influence,
Yeah.
right?
We're influencing Zico and Venruki to tweet, please. But it's
I feel
interesting.
like for Evoker specifically, it probably doesn't matter that much that you don't have that much verse in your gear because our mastery is like very overtuned.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
so you'll just, as long as you have enough verse from like your other gear that you don't die in a stun, you should be able to just top yourself the second you get out of the stun.
Yeah.
Ignoring dampening, of course.
It's so strong that like yesterday I was messing around with literally 0 mastery and 0 healing talents, just all damage, and healing was fine. Like that's how strong we are.
Well, yeah. Well, as we said earlier, they've got to make a strong class because otherwise, all the people returning to live out their House of the Dragon fantasies will be very upset when their class doesn't do anything. I was kind of looking at some of the DPS tier lists, and I saw Devastation a little bit lower, and I was like, it's sort of like maybe B tier, and I was kind of like going, oh no, this is really bad. It means that all the people coming back to play will be like, oh no, somebody put this tier list out and put Devastation at B. I can't possibly play it now. So it's good that I guess at least Preservation is doing quite well.
Yeah, I feel like Devastation's main issue is that it's kind of like a ranged Windwalker, where like it has a big go, and then its consistent damage is kind of meh, and it's very very squishy. So it's like I feel like in solo shuffle it can be weak once people have set up their add-ons, their weak auras. Once people know what to look for with the one shot, it can be difficult to do well in solo shuffle on Devastation. I think in Constructed, you can probably set up a team with like a rogue or something like that, and that can probably be very strong. Where like you'll just kidney shot someone so they won't stop your one shot.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, the Preservation. I just I linked you guys a picture in Discord. I made this little meme yesterday. I was talking about the design of Preservation Evoker. They crushed it on like combining the best of every healer into one. Made a little Megazord Power Ranger and put all the legs as the other healers because they everything that you can think of that like they have the hots of a Wrestle Druid, they have the damage of a Disc Priest, they have like the mobility of a Mistweaver, and like they have everything, and it feels like just such a complete class. And then on the point of Devastation, it's like Preservation has like 90% of what Devastation has plus the healing, so it feels just amazing. Devastation, like Nethy was saying, it's like it has its strengths, but I think the strengths are going to be diminished as people start tracking things and seeing how, because it's pretty not one dimensional, but not as like diverse as like a Preservation and so many different things you can do with it.
Like more scripted in a way.
Yeah.
It's
makes sense.
it's a bit cheesy.
Yeah. Definitely a bit cheesy. I was just, as you guys were talking about that, I was thinking like, obviously if Preservation is so strong and Devastation might work well with a rogue, you could have the comp which would be rogue Evoker, which I think is hilarious. So I mean, if anyone's out there doing pre-made threes, please play and go to town and one shots with people.
Oops, sorry, I had a little sounder go on there. I just bring it up if anybody's on stream. There's the there's the Megazord.
Oh, did you put it on the stream?
I did put it on the stream.
Oh, mine is a little bit behind.
I'm a little slow as well.
So let's hope they can bring other healers up to par with this kind of thing. Because like I would love in a world that Evoker did not need to get nerfed, but it's just like on top of the tuning and the design is so like broad and the tuning is high, so it's just amazing. So I think if they could bring up other healers to that level, and people had talked about the issue of people not wanting to heal and solo shuffle queues being long, and need people like all these DPS mains are like, I need a healer alt now because I can't play the game because I'm sitting in these queues. And hopefully, if they bring other healers up like that, it could make everyone have more fun.
But that's what we've been saying for ages about any sort of like nerf or patching is instead of sort of bringing something down, bring the others up so that everything feels as amazing as the classes are. Sort of like people playing Holy in the sort of latter parts of Shadowlands and kind of bringing everything else up to that level would have been great. And probably the same, I guess, for Dragonflight going forward. It'd be nice to have, Resto Druids feeling amazing to play, Priest feeling amazing. I know our Shaman's at near the bottom at the minute. Although I got one shot by one today, so we won't talk about that. But damage is great, but maybe not the healing. It would be nice to see that.
For sure. I think specifically with Evoker, I think if you bring every healer's damage up to Evoker's level, you're gonna get some wild solo shuffle games where like your Evoker will do more damage than, or your Resto Druid will do more damage than your Arcane Mage, and I think it'll reduce the impact quite dramatically that DPS players have. And that's why I think at least the damage nerf is definitely, or if not a damage nerf, at least to the damage talents. I could very much predict a nerf coming in. Because right now, for context, people have around 380k HP if they're not a warlock or something else with like loads of stamina. And Living Flame can crit for up to 170k, and if you play some like a high verse thing, you can probably get it to hit even harder. And Fire Breath can do similar numbers, along with an honor talent we have that makes Fire Breath like purge for magic effects. So you can run into a Resto Druid, you can Fire Breath, which purges all his hots, hits him for about 100k, and then you can Living Flame for 170k. So if both those crit, you only need your DPS to do like a little bit more damage, and then you've basically soloed someone, which is it's probably not the healthiest thing for the game.
No, and I think what we were talking about before as well, Marcus, about aggressive healing and like being able to go out and do damage. Like for example, like I think I remember Resto Druids being able to do that multiple times in different expansions, or recent expansions, where they've been able to actually make an input. Disc Priest, for example, Holy Priest. I mean, being able to do a little bit of damage, but not obscene amounts of damage, I think is nice to kind of give you that sort of feeling like you're helping. Kind of like RMP would have done back in the in the early inception of Arena. I think that'd be nice, but obviously you don't want to be one-shotting people. But I think maybe if the other healers had their healing brought up, or at least that what makes those classes or that spec in particular work so well, kind of have that bit like bolstered, like Resto Druid Hots maybe, sort of being. I mean, obviously I'm not a healer main, so correct me if I'm 100% wrong on this. But like Hots, for example, or sort of giving more health to Resto Shaman Totem, so they can't get like one tapped easily. Like with like a most of the time the Healing Tide dies in an Earth Shock, which is easy to get. For at least for Ali Shaman. So stuff like that would be nice to kind of like help them buff that healing and kind of bring them up to the same level where their utility feels good and their healing feels good. So there's an enjoyment, obviously, as we said earlier, like it feels kind of like you're inting if you're not playing Preservation.
Yeah, on the note of you're saying like healers doing damage. Nethy totally hit it on the head with the evoker damage. And the thing is, like, when it comes to other healers, I like that healers have the capability of doing damage, but it has to be at a trade-off. Like, you lose nothing from playing offensive as Preservation. You have a talent that makes 80% of your fire breath damage heal. And then if you're running the AoE Living Flame talent, Leaping Flames, I could use it offensively and it AoEs as a heal at the same time. So you're literally losing nothing for healing at all by playing, offensive with these abilities, and it's two abilities. Resto Druid, for example, if you want to contribute to damage, if you're playing like Feral talents, you'll have to go in, compromise position, spend multiple globals dotting up, and then get back out. Shaman has to cast multiple global. Well, Shaman's a little bit better now because they have like lasso and stuff, but a lot of times you have to sacrifice healing for damage, and
yeah,
that's what Preservation doesn't have to do. And that's why, on top of it being really strong, it's really easily designed. And once people catch on to how easy it is to do damage, it's gonna be pretty rough. I'm not gonna lie. I think because damage is gonna be, because once you get those tier set and instant Living Flame procs, and then people realize that healing is so strong, you don't even need to use a Living Flame for healing half the time. You're just throwing those for damage all day, and it's a rough life for other healers.
I feel like the
now I don't feel so bad that your tier set is a little bit weaker on the stats. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, no, fair.
the
He needs versatility.
I feel
Sorry,
like
Nethy.
a way they could very easily fix it is we have a few disintegrate talents, and disintegrate is the really really high damage like beam you do if you were devastation. As preservation, it does no damage. It's like never worth pressing, and it costs the same resource that you use for echo, which is like your bread and butter for like how the entire spec flows. I think if you pulled damage out of Living Flame and Fire Breath and into Disintegrate, because then you get the trade off that
Yeah, I
Marcus
like that.
is referencing to, where like you are losing healing because you're spending your like healing resource, which basically like our equivalent of DK runes on doing damage. I feel like if Disintegrate did like a lot of damage, and then you pulled damage out of like spammable one global instant casts.
Yeah.
Hits you for 100k plus. Because like it's easy to find a global to do an instant cast Living Flame and do like a bit more pressure. It's different to do like a channel that also costs resources that you use on like your primary heal. I feel like that's like the obvious solution to like let evokers have this identity of being able to push out a lot of damage, but give it like an obvious trade-off.
As much as that sounds nice, I fear that we're too close to the launch that we won't see that for a
It's
while.
probably a 10.1 change.
Blizzard, if you're listening, maybe privately message these boys on Twitter and get some feedback. See if you can implement on a patch. But I feel like we've kind of reached a nice point here, Gerissar. Maybe if we should we go on to the subject of analysis?
I thought we were already in there. I stopped.
Are we? Well, I guess we already are technically.
All right, here. Let me click the button. Oh, wait, what's that?
I'm gonna light you up, sweet cheeks.
Okay, there you go. I pushed the button.
Amazing. We're there, guys. You feel free to talk about Preservation Evokers now. You have our full.
Oh, okay, we're getting into Preservation Evokers now.
Yeah, there we go.
Because we weren't there before. It's
No.
Definitely not.
Well, so no, I'm just kind of curious though. You guys were mentioning some of the talents. Why don't we instead of doing like this as much as I like free flow conversations, let's get specific here. What talents are the important ones? Because there's so many talents to choose from, and I'm seeing so many different evokers running so many different builds. There's not one build for the evoker preservation. It seems like, I think even between yourselves, Nethy and Mmarkers, you guys run different builds depending on, and it depends on how you want to play and how much damage you want to do, like you said, versus if you want to do like a damage heal spec or just a flat out more heal spec. So what are the ones that are important? What should, if I'm going to go pick up preservation, what are the ones I should be looking at and going, that makes sense, I need to make sure I have that? Mmarkers, you first, since you're above me.
So let's see. I would say big ones for me. When it comes to like, do you want to specify like class tree versus preservation tree, or?
I think that's worthwhile because there's that split.
All right, so I'll say out of the class tree, talents that have been quote unquote mandatory that have felt really good. Probably tip the scales, which is like your NS or an instant empower ability that you can use offensively or defensively. And personally, I could not imagine a world where I did not play almost all of these hover talents. Like there's a talent that increases the speed, that gives you 2 charges, that gives you 4 seconds longer. And having the extra, all that hover stuff, and that makes your class what it is, the mobility class that it is, really strong. And then I would say Renewing Blaze as well. It's another ability that all evokers get that converts all the damage you take over 8 seconds and just heals for 100% of it over 8 seconds. I think that's the exact numbers on it. So it's like an incredible, like if you, I think the biggest I've had on beta that I remember was over 400k healing in that one ability because I got bursted so hard in those 8 seconds. So I was able to heal it entirely back. It's a short cooldown, especially if you spec into it. It's only a 1 minute cooldown, so as long as you press it before you hit. And then the last one I would say is probably the rescue and twin guardian, which are like the one that pairs with it. So like when you use rescue, which is where you move your partner, which is absolutely incredible ability, so fun too. Really props to them for making this. And then you pair that with twin guardian, which is the talent below it. And when you do it, it gives you a 30% shield on both you and the person. This was like, I'm so happy they did this, because what was happening, if you didn't run this, is you could pick the person up and move them like in an emergency situation, and they would die in the process of moving. So this prevented you. And like, oh, there's a dead body. So we were able to like carry them to a safe place and then give you a few seconds to, top them off and stuff like that. So that's my number one ability is rescue for sure. But I think some of those other abilities are, I don't think you could even play. The class would just not feel like the class without them.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of parts to the talent trees that always have that, where it's like the parts that make the class are part of the tree instead of default stuff. Nethy, how about you though? Is there anything different than what Marker said? Is there anything else that you see as important?
See, that's the thing, and I think at like level 70 in both trees, you feel you're gonna feel incredibly like talent point starved, because there are so many good talents. The other ones is we have to talent in to get our kick. We can get we can get a really really long range route, which is insane against demon hunters or for knocking rogues out of stealth. There's also recall, which is, so we have a deep breath ability, and then we have a healing version of it as well called Dream Flight. And what it does is 3 seconds after you land, so you can fly like 50 yards in one direction, land there, and then if the demon hunter catches up to you within 3 seconds, you click your button again and you teleport back to where you started. So recall used correctly with all your other movement abilities makes demon hunter like impossible to like consistently catch you, and makes evoker probably the like Mistweavers don't have anything on evokers in terms of kiting if the evoker uses the mobility correctly.
Crazy.
I had a recall clip. I doubled it. It was hilarious, man. I was just laughing the whole time. I was a warrior on me, and I dream flight one way. He charges me. I recall back. He intervenes to his partner who was right by me, and then I deep breath again. He leaps to me, and then I pour back again, and then I'm gone. I'm like, oh god, it's just it's not fair, man. It ain't fair.
So where is recall on the talents? I'm just looking at them now, just to have a little look through.
It is in that'll be the 4th row, second to the left.
In the
Class tree, yeah.
Second from the left. I can't.
So
I see it.
I'm wondering then with warrior DK or warrior or DK demon hunter, if that would be the arch nemesis to that ability then, where with the DK ability to chains of ice and death grip and then slappy hands, plus the DH with runes, plus all the zipping around and everything else like that. Is that, would you guys feel that is your arch nemesis for being able to move and get away and not be locked down, or is there other things that I don't know of that would make that useless?
So in while you're in Dreamflight and while you're in Dream Breath, you're immune to all CC. That includes grips, and it also breaks roots. We also, and then we have our own Holy Ward PvP talent that makes us immune to like the next 3 CCs. That is purgeable, but
I saw that.
But you can cover yourself with hots and stuff like that.
Okay.
And then we have another honor talent that makes us unable to be slowed while we're using hover. So I would say the only ones that like really catch a preservation evoker is like people stunning primarily. It does feel like if you get caught in a stun and you don't have a CD or a trinket ready, you can die very very quickly. But if you're not getting stunned, it seems very unrealistic for even a DK to lock you down.
Wow.
It seems nuts.
It is. The only interaction that I thought that it was comical the first time I saw it was on the note of about like slappy hands is if you rescue somebody, so you use that ability where you pull somebody. So let's say they're getting attacked, the DK's on top of them with the slappy hands, and you go to rescue them away. You'll pull them away, but then you'll get stuck in there, so then you don't get pulled back too. So that was the only funny interaction because like, oh right, well we swap positions. But outside of that, like you was saying, like there's nothing that stops you. Like even if all of that stuff fails, like all the recalls and the dream flights, you have 2 hovers that have a freedom. You can rescue, you can verdant embrace, which also leaps you to somebody. It's just the only time that you really feel scared is in a stun with no Emerald Communion, which is usable while stunned, or Trinket. If you have one of those two, you're never scared.
Wow.
I was just thinking as well, with oh no, it's just literally just gone out of my head just then. I literally had a point that I wanted to talk about and it just literally just went out of my head. Never mind, come back to me. I'll remember it.
Okay. All right.
It was really important. I swear. It literally just went out of my head as I was talking.
Okay.
Yeah, move on.
All right. I guess if that's it for the regular talents, what about in PvP talents? Because you guys got some good looking PvP talents, but you can only pick 3. So, or actually, wait, before we even do that, I think it's also equally important. Trinkets. What do you guys use? Just regular trinket? What about oh shoot! Now the other one just escaped the one that starts with an A.
Adaptation.
Adaptation. Yeah. Wow. Holy my brain.
Is that still in the game?
Yeah, it is. They got rid of
yeah.
Relentless. They got rid of Relentless.
Yeah, they got,
Yeah, that's like partially built into the bonus now.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
So, sorry, do you guys is it just trinket or is adaptation even a consideration?
I wouldn't say you can go.
I think it's too easy to play around adaptation.
Fair.
It's I think adaptation's really really bad. In theory, if you're like completely new to the game, playing at very low rating, adaptation might be good, as in like a way to play where you don't have to think about your trinket, so you can focus on learning to play the class. I think that's the only like role adaptation has right now, outside of like really really niche ones. I know some people use them in hunter matchups in Shadowlands, but then people would usually play orc or human along with it. So maybe like adaptation human might find like a niche use, but we are stuck being Drakthir, so I would not see adaptation getting any use.
Yeah, human evoker went.
The only use I had of adaptation was like playing my Wrestle Druid for hunters specifically, like he was saying, because and not even hunters specifically, it was non-survival hunters, so like BM hunters. Because if the only time I would ever get trapped by them as a druid because you're so mobile was out of a stun. So if they couldn't stun trap you, you were never getting trapped, and you were able to basically never get CC because druid was so mobile and like you were never able to catch him. So that would probably be the only case. Maybe I'll experiment with it. We'll see how it goes. But you're so strong, and like you can use your humongous heal while stunned. So you don't need to even trinket half the time because your hots are so strong. You have so many emergency heals. So it's not even worth really even risking it to run adaptation, I would say.
Okay. Good
I actually got a funny story for you, Marcus, as well. Sorry, talking about Resto Druids and mobility. I play with a Resto Druid who actually showed me your channel actually for the first time a long time ago.
Smart man.
So no, he refused from the beginning of Shadowlands to go Necrolord, totally. And like even when he just stayed Night Fate the entire time. And I always said to him, oh man, like I feel like that we're just like we're throwing games, we don't have the healing output and everything, until we met the first survival hunter. And he goes in for the harpoon for the root trap, and my druid blinks it. with night.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is actually pretty good in twos. I don't have to worry about you with survival hunters. And I thought, you know what, talking about mobility, that I like that sort of thing where, you know, it's not the meta, but that was interesting. So I thought you'd
when
appreciate it.
I got a lot of hashback on when I made a video on how to get out of Kyrian Spear with Soul Shape in the beginning of Shadowlands. Oh, yep. You had to perfectly time it, you had to practice it, but you get it off and it was like so rewarding.
It does, yeah. A lot of warriors in your mailbox kind of saying
Yeah.
rude things.
All right, PvP talents though. Let's bring this back to talking talents because that's what I do. What does it matter which talent? Like some of these look really good. Precognition, I think, is not required for you guys. I mean, you have what, 4 schools, so
And you don't even cast half the time.
yeah. So I'm not seeing that as an important one. But I don't know, Chrono Loop, sorry. Dream Projection, the Nullifying Shroud, Obsidian Metal, Scouring Flames, Swoop Up, Time Stop, and Unburdened Flight. I mean, all of these look good. To me, Nethy, which ones do you pick?
I have 2 talents that I usually just lock in like 90% of games. And that's Nullifying Shroud and Dream Projection. Nullifying Shroud is our Holy Ward that makes us immune to the next 3 CCs on a 1.5 minute cooldown. It is purgeable, but you purge it 1 charge at a time. So it is very difficult for people to purge, especially if you have HOTS on yourself along with it. And the time people waste purging you is usually like buys you time anyways. The only time you would not play it is into Arcane Mage, because that is the mage spec right now, and they can klepto it.
Yeah, that might be interesting.
Imagine the mages just going, "Thank you."
Yeah. All the mages are currently saying balanced. This is balanced.
Yeah.
Totally balanced. All right, so if you're not playing, sorry, so that's your 2. What's your 3rd that you move around? And if you're not going to play Nullifying Shroud against an Arcane Mage, what do you play?
I would usually play Scorching Flame then for the purge on Fire Breath.
Okay.
Another thing with Dream Projection is a really, really strong hop. So what it does is it makes like a ghost version of yourself that you control, kind of like a vehicle. And each time you fly through someone, it does a little heal. And then you have like a self-destruct button. And when it blows up, it puts a really, really large hop that's basically the same amount as like your health pool. I think it's like just under your health pool, but it's an insanely large heal. And it also dispels everyone it hits. So we technically have a master spell. And cool interaction you can do with it is if you get hit by CC, it cancels your spell and instantly detonates. So against set mages, you can put up Dream Projection and have your little airplane guy hover over you. And then when you get hit by a sheep or when you get hit by a horge, it blows up and instantly dispels you, and then you're on the DR for even if he goes for the re.
Jeez. The Megazord dream is real. Like genuinely, I'm listening to this and going like,
it sounds worse when we're saying it out loud now. Like
the realization sets in. You're like, ooh, okay, maybe this is busted.
I accidentally dispelled with Dream Projection on that note. I accidentally double dispelled Coil from a Warlock. We had both of our guys there, and he pressed it. I pressed Dream Projection, not even for that purpose. I didn't even realize it would do this, and then dispelled both of us instantly out of the Coil. I was like, oh, nice.
The stars aligned with my busted class.
So when you're steering this thing around and doing kind of micro hots, though, you're not able to control your character, right? So somebody could be beating on you, and you would be able to.
Yeah. A lot of the time you will want to detonate it as fast as possible because it does just lock your character in place while you're channeling it.
Okay.
An important thing to note is for UAs, VTs, and Flame Shock, you do get the pushback or the negative effects for the spelling. So if you use this into like an Affililock that has hot stop on everyone, you can absolutely just completely suicide with projection.
Been there.
Take that one off the sheet.
That's important to know. Yeah, because that's going to be the next question.
So the
All right.
explosion is AoE then?
Yeah.
Is that
It is AoE, but I think it's a I don't know if it's a 5-yard or a 10-yard range. It's a very, very small range, so people do have to be stacked to for it to like do an AoE effect.
Yeah. Oh, that actually reminds me of the thing I was going to say earlier, which was about obviously the yard range. Now, is it 30 yards maximum for preservation? Yeah, so it's quite short range for as a healer. So what I was going to say with the actual sort of your mobility, it kind of makes sense to kind of be able to kind of zoom around, because you got to be catching those guys zooming behind pillars all the time. You know, you can't reposition as easily. Now you can with the kind of hover and everything like that. So that makes sense to me. That's what I was going to say earlier. Sorry, it's totally out of the sync of what we just said, but that reminded me then. So
no, that's important though. That's really important.
Yeah. So I think that's interesting.
How far? Because I'm thinking like, okay, so in the Grand Arena being medium sized, smallish, you could probably get most of the map with that, right? But then I'm guessing Tol Viron, if your party or if your teammates are on a pillar and you're on another pillar, you probably are going to have to get out of position in order to heal them and then fly back. Like, are you traveling far away before you can actually get to do anything and then come back to a safety spot, or do you even care and you're just like in there with everybody just doing stuff?
So the thing is, I think even if we had a 40-yard range, we would be in melee constantly. One of our main heals is Verdant Embrace, which makes you charge to the guy you're healing, and that is like our main single target heal. So you end up being in melee range constantly, and you end up being the victim of random sheeps from mages. Mages are very, very rough for Evoker. Like a good mage can, because you are always in the open because you're trying to heal. You can't play cloak into them, and if you play cloak, you give them 3 charges of holy ward. So mage and rogue definitely feel like the rough matchups, because you have to be in the open constantly. Spammable CC in general, like Fear and Cyclone as well, you are very susceptible to just getting CC'd, because your position, it's very difficult to outrange a lot of that CC.
Good to know. Huh.
It's interesting.
Yeah, a lot of people ask me what's the counter healer. I don't know if there is one, but if there's one, I always go with the druid. Just getting things constantly cloned and like spammable CC. That's like seems like the biggest weakness to Evoker so far, because you're always in a weird spot and it's so easy just to catch you off guard and catch you in the middle and CC you, and then you get chain CC'd, like clone you and then clone the partner, and then that's where it can become a mess. People. That's why I'm kind of excited. I'm gonna play Wrestle Druid as well, for that reason, because now I know Evoker, so I know how to try to get into their heads with cycloning.
But in a way, doesn't that put you as a druid in a bad position because you have to get into that spot in order to clone?
It depends. I mean, if you're in stealth, because a lot of times it would happen with just they go around the back, they go in stealth, rake stun, clone. And then that kind of the chain starts, because if you lose your hot, especially if you combine, like what comes to mind as a comp I always play. I play with Numbing a lot, actually. We play Arcane R Druid, and like I could just picture that comp being pretty dang good into preservation, between having the purges and having the constant CC. And I think that's going to be a force to overcome with preservation for sure.
That makes
Especially
sense.
with Arcane being good.
Arcane
being good as well. That's
Nami,
awesome.
Nami must be pretty happy, actually.
Arcane is gonna be very, very good.
Yeah.
It's doing really well in solo shuffle right now, and that's despite like Mage's kit generally not really being suited for random teams with no communication.
Yeah, especially and with Arcane having basically one school of magic, still being able to do well says something.
Does absolutely.
Sorry, I don't think Markers. I didn't ask. PvP talents. Was there anything there different than Nethy or?
Pretty much same in terms of like the ones that I always run. Dream Projection is too good to pass. Nullifying Shroud, it's been hit or miss. Like sometimes in solo shuffle, I will still run into a mage just because like the game comes down to the opener. Sometimes where you're like, because they can't. A lot of them they sheep you out of stealth, and there's nothing you could do. So you could even just pop it and then cancel it off, just so you don't get sheeped in the opener. Because arcane mages thrive off openers. But yeah, most of the time I'm running Shroud. And one I'm hoping we get the wall back sooner than later. So if you're familiar with the wall that we lost, dude, I made so many fun plays playing that. Like I would play swoop up and the wall, so you could stun something. Your teammate would stun something. I would swoop up, pull it behind the pillar, and then lock the door with the wall. And then just it was so much fun. I've never had so much fun in a class. I was so disappointed when one day randomly it was gone. So once that comes back, that's gonna be one of my almost always pick. The amount of kill you can literally use it like a smoke bomb. It's so freaking good. And on top of it doing damage and potentially stunning if you spec into it. Outside of that, Unburdened Flight, really good against DKs, and unfortunately Demon Hunters with their Soul Rend spec. That just it's like a constant 900% uptime slow. And then lastly, I've been playing a lot with Chrono Loop just for fun, and it's been really cool. Coming from like a druid perspective, it's anytime I would think of offensively cloning something low, that's where I would Chrono Loop. So like if we do a big go into an evoker, for example, and he pops Emerald Communion, which is a huge heal while you're stunned, I would immediately Chrono Loop it so that he gets kind of dropped back down. If he resets his health back. I use it for kiting. So like DHs, if I just want another extra thing to help me kite, I'll bring him behind a pillar, Chrono Loop him, and then hover away. And then at the end of the Chrono Loop, he'll get ported back. So it's like you can use it to kite. And then, even works into Resto Druid Trank. Like if, from, my perspective as a Druid, sometimes I'll get really low. I'll Trinket Trank as like an emergency panic heal. And you could Chrono Loop them even though they're immune to it. And their health will go right back down. And then what you do is you just time. If you're once your teammates get used to this, you time. So I would like time a Fire Breath, like looking at the timer ticking down on a Chrono Loop and line up the Fire Breath. The second they get ported back, pop them with it. Oh, it's so satisfying. But it's a for fun one. I don't know. We'll see what the limits you can kind of do on it. But it is dispellable. I think a lot of people just don't know about it yet. So
yeah,
we'll see. We'll see how it catches on.
That was my question.
I foresee a week aura soon.
Yeah, it's like a mind games week aura. That's what I'm thinking. Just dispel, and then they'll dispel it.
What's the timing on it? Is there like a
5 seconds? 5 seconds.
Okay, so is that if hopefully most people will probably be able to get in line of their healer for a dispel, but could be I can see that being a nice niche thing to play. 100%.
Amazing against alter time too. Right before alter time comes back, you just pop that, and then they get altered back, and then they come right back.
That's insane, actually. That's insane.
The alter time counter. Wow.
Yeah. It's 5D chess. That's what it is.
That's yeah. My brain is just wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have a lot of talents that seem good on paper, but probably won't be in practice. Another one is Time Stop, which is basically like a friendly cyclone, which sometimes is really good if you can if a Windwalker stuns your team and you can time stop the kill target, and he's immune to damage for those 3 to 4 seconds that you keep it up. The problem is just you can't really use it reactively. Because if you time stop someone at low HP, you know how when on Shadowlands the priest gets killed and everyone just stands around the spirit and waits for him to rest so they can just instantly kill him again.
Yeah.
People basically do that with time stop. So it's it doesn't really in practice do much. Another thing was I think we brushed over precognition very quickly earlier.
Yeah.
There is one interaction with precognition, and that's for literally everyone who has access to that talent. The demo lock Felguard stun is an interrupt and a stun built into one. So what it does in practice is it interrupts you and then it stuns you, and that's a PvE interaction they made to give Warlock an extra stun.
Yep.
An extra interrupt. Sorry.
Yeah.
But what it does with precognition is that it'll interrupt you, that interrupt will then be counted as you getting interrupted while not casting. So it makes you immune to CC, and then you're immune to stun. So precognition will make you immune to demo log stuns, just perma. And demo log is looking to be one of the strongest casters right now. So even though we don't cast much, precognition is really really good into specifically demo logs.
I think Leaker's crying right now. I can hear
Yeah.
him. I can hear him.
I'm waiting for the DMs.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Like, why did you reveal this on stream?
One thing we were talking about time stop. I don't know, Nethy, if you tried this. I haven't. I thought about it, but I never tried it. Maybe another interaction you could use for it is like just if you really want to be, a real nuisance in terms of CC on top of Shroud, like using it to stop CC. So like if a mage is about to follow you, you can time stop yourself and then cancel time stop to prevent CC, or anything like that. I don't know if it works like that. I think it does.
It should do. It basically like treats it like if you got cycloned, like if there's an arrested druid on the other team griefing. And you can cancel it at any time, so you don't have to sit the full 4 seconds. You can like use it like an ice block and just instantly cancel it.
Is that on the person that has time stop on them? So like, let's say you put it on
No,
your.
it's
They
the
have to
it's the
cancel it.
caster. It's the caster.
So it would be you that decides when that ends.
Yeah,
Okay, that's
you
interesting.
you can keep your teammate imprisoned for the full 4 seconds, and they can't do anything about it.
Oh dear.
It's so troll. When we had the wall talent, we had this guy on the beta. He was cheesing people with the Dark Moon card that was completely ridiculously overtuned, and no one could actually play the game because he would like do a 250k LE blast and then hit this infernal thing at the same time. So everyone's like, "Stop, man! Stop using this. We're trying to just have fun." So what I did was, at the second the game starts, I rescue, throw him to the back of the room, and then I time stop him, hover out to the front of the room, lock the door, and he's not playing, man. It's so troll, but it was hilarious.
Go to your room. You go there
Yeah.
and we're not letting you out until you're ready to play nice.
Unequip that trinket right now. Well, I'm not letting you out. Terrible.
Oh my god, that's funny.
So I literally put on the naughty step.
Yeah, I feel it's important because if anybody hasn't actually looked it up, Markers, you've spoken about this talent that is now not there. Just give us a rundown. What exactly is this wall talent you keep talking about?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's deep breath, which is your 2-minute cooldown that like does you fire breath across, and then it puts like a parallel line of walls in between. So if you go right, if you put your path here, it does a wall on either side. It had some buggy interactions. I don't know if it was why. I know this is something like art related, but like what would happen is if you did your wall and the person was underneath the wall, like right where it spawned, they would be basically immune to everything because no one could target them on either side. That was an interaction I noticed. And then also, there's another funny thing, was I was able to rescue your teammate on top of the wall. So I would take my warlock, I would put the wall and then take my warlock, put him on top of the wall. And even if the wall disappeared, he stayed up there. And maybe that's another reason why they got rid of it for now. They said it was coming back though, so I'm hoping it comes back because that was such a fun ability.
Yeah. I know it's taken out because of the art assets. They're having some interaction issues. So, but okay, that is funny. Sorry, Nethy. What were you gonna say?
Yeah, it just has like a bunch of bugs. They have confirmed it's coming back. But it's soon TM, so it's whenever they figured out how to fix all the bugs with it.
10.2. I'll see that come back.
Yeah, right.
Right about when we get our PvP talent revamp.
New content. Here we go.
It's gonna be a new ability in the next expansion.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we knew you liked this, so we saved it for a better time. Don't worry.
Yeah. Wait for it to show up on the box of the next expansion, whatever that is.
Yeah, you like the Drakthir from Dragonflight? Well, now in Space Odyssey expansion, make walls with your deep breath.
We already had Space Odyssey. It was called Legion.
Oh, it's, no, that was Outland. That was TBC.
Oh,
that's where we went to space.
Actually,
Legion
that's
came
true.
after Legion.
That is true.
Yeah,
Speaking of things from other expansions, tier sets, they're back again, but this is PvE centric. So if anybody doesn't know, Dragonflight, there's tier sets. They're PvE centric. They're not PvP special. So you can earn it through PvP if you have the lucky RNG of winning one in the vault. Otherwise, you're gonna have to wait until the catalyst is up and running, which I don't know when that. I think they're talking like January by the time that happens. So it's gonna
I
be.
think it's 4 weeks into the season, which is quite long.
Is it for? Yeah, okay. So season one's supposed to start, I think, the week of the 12th. So
Yeah.
so it'll be January. So okay. But in that, I got the feeling that tier set was important for Preservation Evokers. Are you looking for just the 2 set where you get the so you empower your spells to increase a reversion's chance to critically heal by 25%, or the 4 piece where reversion healing has a chance to cause your next living flame to instant cast and deal 20% increased healing or damage, stacking 2 times. So that's up to 40% if you stack it. That sounds pretty good.
Yeah, I was like, you could just read it and tell what you're gonna probably do. Yeah.
Yeah. So just 2 piece then?
There is the 2 piece is not bad. Reversion has an interaction where every time it crits, it adds duration onto itself, and reversion is our main hot. So reversion critting a bunch is not bad at all. So even if you theoretically a few weeks into the season only have 2 piece, that's definitely still worth running. There was a lot of people early on in it's not early on, it's like a few weeks ago. There's a lot of people who are trying out crit builds specifically to have that interaction with reversion and just have the hots extend forever. Crit is really bad, but like the interaction is there, so it's not completely worthless. And it definitely it gives extra duration over the like the course of a match, and you can see it on like how often you have to refresh from like pre-patch right now and when you have the tier set.
Okay.
Yeah, I tried playing without the tier set just for verse sake, and it's just not worth it. You get those procs because you can echo for your reversion, so you could have potentially you could probably keep up 5 at a time even, and like all those ticking, you're just constantly getting these procs, and they can stack 2 times. So even if you don't use one, you might get a second one, and then you could throw 2 in a row off. It's unfortunately too good to pass.
Interesting. So you're saying crit's bad as a preservation spec?
I would say our stats are surprisingly close. Like I don't think anyone will go down crying if they get a little bit of crit. But I would say it is the weakest stat.
Interesting, because looking at the conquest gear, if I map this out right, it's basically you have a choice of haste, or either one piece is haste and another piece is crit or mastery. But it seems like you seem to be stuck to either having a haste build or like some weird balance there. Like I don't know. It seems weird. I don't know. The stat weighting seems really weird on the conquest.
I just don't understand why they can't just do it where you have PvP gear that has Versa on, right? As everyone is thinking who's listening, and obviously everyone here and on the actual podcast itself, it just makes sense to have the 2 for the PvPers and the PvEers, and or let us sort of make our own stat weights. Like we should have the technology for that. I mean, obviously I'm not a dev, and I'm not gonna try go around and say I know how coding works, because I don't. But it just makes sense for them to have just put that in, and I hope maybe Blizzard turn around and do decide to do something for us, because it just makes sense,
Yeah, it kind of sucks that you have to take all these talents, and like Leather, for example, gets an enormous amount of verse. And like on my Gerissar Druid on the beta, I was running just 2 set, and even just running 2 set, both of those pieces are verse heavy with haste off stat. So you're getting exactly what you want even in your 2 set. And like Evokers just kind of, you have to run crit mastery pretty much all your pieces.
Yeah.
Just to throw in something on crit, I actually love playing crit on all of my healers for the sake of damage. I think up like a mixture, because there's so much crit on the tier set. I'll probably, for like a more healing sustain build, I might run even more haste just to kind of give yourself a little bit of a balance, because haste does have some nice interactions for Evoker, because you can like, it helps with CDR on like reversion and Burn Embrace. I don't know if you guys know, I found this out way too late. I found this out like probably a few months back. But if you look on your spell book, if the cooldown is in green font, it's affected by haste. I had no idea because I never run haste. So I'm like,
Shut the front
what do you
door.
mean? Yeah. If you like, you'll hover over an ability, like for Priest, for example. I found this out when I was on Priest. So like Shadow or Death, it's green text. So the cooldown is reduced by haste. So yeah, so Verdant Embrace and Reversion, which are your two main heals, are affected by haste. So in turn, haste actually becomes pretty good. And it also reduces like your essence regen time, and then obviously CDR. So haste definitely isn't bad. I've been playing crit simply because of the living flame damage being extremely overtuned. And if you happen to get a you do your tip the scales NS fire breath into instant living flame, if everything crits, you just win the game. That's just it. Like, and and that could just win games just like that. So I think for my twos build, I'm probably going to be playing crit, and then for probably threes and solo, probably going a little more haste in terms of the off pieces, because we're kind of, but you'll have quite a bit of mastery on the main pieces, and kind of go from there. If I need more healing, I run more mastery. If I don't need healing, I'll run more haste.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Go.
I was just gonna say like that. It was always in front of me, like the recharge, for example. Like I've just logged on my Shadow Priest just to double check. Yeah, 7.1 second recharge on Mind Blast.
Yep. And you put haste gear on or take it off, and you'll see the number change.
Mental. Okay. You learn something
right.
new every day.
That's going to be the one thing I learned today. I learned, yeah, how to read the colorization of stats on our spells. Just because there's always hard caps and soft cap. Well, always there's soft caps in how we use our abilities and that, because there's the diminishing returns. I know it's still pretty early, but are you guys expecting any soft caps to the amount of mastery or the amount of haste you're going to be using on preservation, or even crit?
I don't think we have any set in stone soft caps or hard caps. Like right now, as you can hear, no one really knows what is our best stat. I think the only consensus is that for healing, at least, crit is like the lowest.
Yeah.
Like personally, I prefer haste over mastery.
Oh,
But they are really close.
okay.
As Marcus mentioned, there's the cooldown reduction on especially Verdant Embrace, your big single target heal, where you have loads of talents that interact with it as well. So getting out more of those is really nice. And the regen on Essence, which is like our DK runes, is the spec just flows a lot better with higher haste. So I think even if mastery ends up being the best, because mastery is the best, I think like um pure like PvE numbers, mastery is the highest. Um but in terms of like needing the heal on demand or getting the echoes out when you need them, just like having the availability for your spells in general, haste is much nicer. And we have our CC as well, which is casted, so it's also nice to have a like slightly shorter cast time on that, and along with your empowers. So I think haste is our best stat, with mastery very, very, very close behind. So I think we might actually not be hurt too much by having to pick mastery items sometimes where we don't have access to haste items, because it does feel like either way you're gonna get a really good start.
Nice.
Yeah, I was just say it kind of comes back to like the same thing I do with Druid. Is Resto Druid is like, I tell people like, what stat do I run? If you feel like you can't heal enough, your throughput's not good enough, the class is nerfed or whatever reason, run more mastery. If you're healing too much and you don't need this much healing, go more haste. And Evoker's in the place where it doesn't need more healing, so more haste is usually going to be better.
Well, I guess the other question leading up to that, because I was thinking with haste, this is me being like not researching enough. Haste, I remember when you start having enough haste on your dots and your hots, you started getting extra ticks. You get over breakpoints. Is that even a thing for preservation, or is it just on the hard cast that the haste even really matters?
It does give extra ticks at certain breakpoints.
Okay.
I think the way they do it nowadays is like it's a bit more smart in the way where like it's not a specific haste breakpoint, because I think in old school WoW it was like if you don't get like to this haste level, then all the haste before it is completely useless because then you don't get
Yeah.
any value. I
Yeah.
think they just make him tick faster
Okay.
now. Along with that, we have our Dream Breath and Fire Breath, which is another haste interaction. They are considered a dot and a hot. And then what you do when you empower them is that you like compress the hot into a big initial hit. And because it's considered a hot initially that you're then compressing, haste will boost the initial hit of your Fire Breath, and it will boost the initial heal of your Dream Breath.
Well, that's a neat interaction. That's oh my! No wonder people are having a hard time mathing this out. There's like
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm
like
just trying to, my GCSE level maths trying to come back in. From the age of 15, I'm kind of like I feel like I'm in sort of what's the meme where the X-Files kind of fucking the buttons coming everywhere, like
Yeah.
graphs and stuff. That's what
I
I'm
love
feeling.
that stuff. That was my favorite thing. Is like theorycraft and the little numbers. I used to I had the spreadsheets on the haste breakpoints. Oh yeah.
that's funny.
That's the thing though. Like I think, but in general, when you've got like a new class like this, especially a new healer since monks, something I've been saying for quite a while is that we hadn't had a new healer to change up anything really in since mop, which is a very long time. It's fun to kind of like go in there and kind of crunch it and kind of be like, okay, what works best, like what to do, because you'll basically be the first person to do it anyway. So
Sorry, I'm not listening to you anymore. I'm just reading chat.
yeah, I'm just talking to myself. Yeah,
It's been a lot of fun, especially with trying out builds. I would have like basically every evoker playing beta stream open and look what they're doing like between queues. It's a lot of fun seeing what works for other people. Because at the start I didn't run. I run like a like pseudo damage build, and then I had I can't remember the name sadly. Um, I had someone hit me for a lot of damage and still like do fine on healing. So it's like I wonder how much I can put into this DPS build and still do fine. And it turns out our healing's so good that it didn't matter that much. I think
Wow.
The only time like the damage build will notice that it has less healing is in dampening. And but the main thing is when you have that damage pressure in dampening, you usually win against the guy that is just standing in the back healing.
Yep.
Nobody needs healing and dampening. It doesn't matter when
Yeah,
anyway.
it goes back to the damage being instant and easy, so that's why it just takes over.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So usually right at this point we ask like, okay, is there any like BIS race? Is there any racials that you want to go for? But I'm fairly sure, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think there's only one race you can be for
Yeah.
for Evoker, and that's the Dragfear. So I think we'll move on from that one, don't you think, Gerissar?
Yeah. Thanks for pointing out that I forgot to delete that out of the show notes. I
No,
appreciate you.
I thought it was funny. I thought it was an amusing thing to put in there. That's why I talked about it.
I saw that too. I was like, oh, I should probably delete that out. Nah, we'll just skip over it. We know
Yeah, I
better.
already-
Nope.
yeah.
Thanks,
Nope.
Jake. It's
Yeah, I gotta do it. So we touched on this earlier when we mentioned about rogues, but in terms of what you'd want to play with, like ideally, like we know solo shuffle, you're going in by yourself. So what you could have in there could be anything. But if you were to do, for example, twos, is there a class that you think what would be the best twos comp really for you?
So I've been playing almost exclusively twos the past week just because I never got to play it on the beta, so I wanted to play it a lot. And that's like my favorite bracket. So best ones that I've found so far, Survival Hunter was number one, I think, and Demo Lock. I'll say they're both at close. Because you don't have stuns or consistent stuns unless you're talented that one stun as an evoker, and your healing throughput's really high. And then you also have Sleepwalk, which is a fear DR, which pairs really well with Hunter. So being able to get consistent goes, it's kind of playing like how I would play Resto Druid or Disc Priest Hunter. And on top of that, it's so easy to throw in the damage. You just like your Hunter gets a trap. You can root the kill target, throw in a Fire Breath, a Living Flame while he's bashing on him, and then you go for a Sleepwalk, and it just feels amazing. And then on top of that, with Demo Locks, kind of how like Demo Lock Mistweaver ended up being a very good comp randomly in Shadowlands because Mistweaver healing throughput's just so high, and Demo Lock damage throughput's high. Just whatever class does the most damage and healing wins, and that's what it ended up being. Surprisingly, I had my most success actually with Shadow Priest. I don't know if that's a pre-patch thing, but we were doing setups with we were doing just coordinated setups where I would sleepwalk the off target, the DPS typically, and then he would stun the healer into like a mind games go, and I would fire breath it at the same time. And we were actually able to crush a lot of teams, and because of mind games being strong, and Shadow Priest is very, very strong as well. And then we also paired it with Rescue. So another thing we would do is we would be kiting, and then I would throw him in offensively, we both throw him in. He AoE fears, and then we set up off of that. So we would throw him in, AoE fear, stun the healer, and then kill him. It was so much fun to play. So I think a lot of setup comps, I think it's going to work in literally everything to an extent. But I really enjoyed either very setupy or just really high damage.
Yeah, because I was going to ask, obviously Elemental Shaman, like your honest take in twos, Preservation Elemental Shaman. Do you think that could be OP?
I'm going to give it a B tier. I'm going to give
it a grace in my heart.
If you had more stuns as the evoker, I would say it better. But it's just either the healer has to have really high throughput damage, which it kind of can, but I don't know if you'll be able to keep up. Like Disc Ellie was actually really good in the end of Shadowlands, and Resto Druid was inherently good because you're constantly cycloning things. Yeah. But I don't know about Evoker Ellie. I'm gonna be questionable on that one.
You don't see the sort of sleepwalk on the main, or the healer, and then the big lasso onto the DPS with all the unloaded damage from the preservation. I mean,
maybe. I haven't played it personally. I don't want to knock out something I didn't try, but I'll say it's average. My guess.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, Nethy, what do you think?
In twos, I've not played any twos. I think the only twos I've played was a little bit with a Demon Hunter, and everything works with a Demon Hunter. So that's there's no synergy there. It's just the Demon Hunter goes wild and you keep him alive.
Yeah.
I think for threes, it feels like it kind of takes the place of Resto Shaman. Mm-hmm. It feels like it just plays the comps that Resto Shaman used to play, as in
melee.
As in melee, or caster melee. It feels very, very rough to heal wizards because of both your range and the fact that you're jumping around between them.
You're going everywhere.
Yeah. And you have one of your big hots is a cone attack or a cone heal with the dream breath. Mm-hmm. And ideally you want to hit as many people with it as possible, but in a wizard cleave you traditionally don't want to be stacked with have your two casters stacked, so it makes your healing super inefficient. I'm sure people can make it work, but it feels very, very clunky compared to just healing standing behind a caster and then lining it up to also hit the melee, or just hitting two melee. It definitely feels like a melee cleave healer.
That makes sense. When you guys were talking about it earlier, I kind of thought that in my head. It's it's got to be, it's got to be melee, sort of or maybe something, I don't know, Shadow Priest Warrior with the preservation, they could in a sort of way that sort of, it definitely can't be, as you say, wizards, the double ranged comps, but definitely melee, something along those lines, because you got to be in close, right? So that kind of makes sense, and also you don't want to be hovering from like one pillar to the other pillar to kind of figure out what's going on with your two range that are sort of like spread in a triangle formation. So
yeah, I'll say the one wizard comp that will probably work, but this is probably tuning based, is Shadow Play, Shadow Priest lock, especially Demo, just because like your asset, you don't have stuns like a Resto Druid, is inherently better with casters because of that reason. But because you can rescue your teammate really far away, you can root things. You can, if you can run like the Living Flame AoE talent, so you're just doing so much spread pressure on top of their damage. I think that comp will work, and both of those classes are pretty tanky themselves, and really good at peeling you. So I think that comp will probably be okay, but outside of that, Wizards, definitely lacking. And when it comes to melee, that like the weakness of melee is killing the healer, right? When you use it versus melee, triple melee, or double melee, everyone just runs up there with the healer or like exposes that healer. And Evoker is so mobile, it's hard to stick to you, so it's going to be. And then like you add in the damage, is like Nethy was saying, it's a cone. Whenever I play with a DK on solo shuffle, when I see him do that, the grip into the blinding sheet, you just walk in there, throw in a big fire breath or a deep breath, and you could just capitalize on all that damage.
Yeah,
that was awesome,
that makes
actually.
sense. Do you have a favorite, guys? Like, is there one in like, is there like a comp you think you would sort of like want to be playing? Like, if you would like say, and this is the one comp I'm playing for season 1, what would you choose? Out of curiosity.
Jungle Cleave, probably. It
Ooh, that's a good pick.
feels really obviously it's with like the minimal experience where you just happen to get a hunter and a feral in solo shuffle. It is very hard to test constructed trees right now, but the synergy feels really, really good, especially with survival being good, because then they are kind of the melee cleave, so it makes them easy to heal. And then you can have the hunter or the feral stun the healer into a trap, and then while they are doing all their damage and their go, you can hover up to the trap and put a little sleepwalk on, which is the different DR. It's the fear DR, so you can have like a really, really long CC chain. You can help with the damage, and you get the benefit of that you usually have of like of healing a melee cleave.
Do you think you could do the thing where you pick them up and you put them on top of someone? Could you do that with the trap? So like instead of having to use other things, so you could pick them up and drop them, and then the trap goes down immediately on the healer. Do you think that would work, or is that too niche?
I guess if you have like a hunter that's really bad at throwing his trap, you can pick the honor you could pick the honor talent and fix his mistake by by pulling them onto the trap. But that's probably not ideal.
Yeah, you probably don't even need it.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't do, but just for like, it would be sort of like, oh no, he hasn't got harpoon up. There's no way he's going to do anything. He's not going to trap yet. Suddenly you pick up the hunter and pop him onto the healer, and he just drops the trap insta.
I think especially when we get the wall talent back as well, you're gonna be a healer sitting in, and I know feral druids don't like picking up cyclone that much right now. They can pick it up, but apparently they like lose a lot of stuff by picking it up because the druid class tree is just a mess.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what you can do is like you can cover that cyclone DR on the healer at least, and then maybe open up options for them to play something more. And then when you have the wall talent, you can go stun, trap, sleep, and then right as the sleep ends, you would make a wall between the DPS and the healer, and the healer will have to, if it's a Tolveron, the pillars are usually very close to the outer walls, so you can just cover it off and force the healer to go the long way around the pillar to get back to his DPS.
Yeah,
that's
a lot of interactions.
Dirty. I love it.
And if you want to like kind of beat a dead horse on this, you can run swoop up too, and then when they go back into the wall to save their guy, you just say nope and you take him back out.
Yep.
It's so comical what you could do with those two abilities. You're playing chess with everybody. You're moving your players, you're moving their players, you're putting up pillars. It's just so much fun to play.
You're the big hand from Super Smash Bros.
Yeah,
At the
yeah,
end.
the master hand.
Yeah, the master hand. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it. Marcus, what about you? Have you got like, I know obviously Neff said jungle. Like, is there one in particular you had in your mind?
Well, in terms of twos, I think definitely the two that I mentioned, I would probably be my go-to if I could. Even mage isn't that bad because you kind of have that. I like a very CC based comp. And in terms of threes, I'm a wizard bias person, so I'm gonna say shadow play is probably the one I want to try the most, because that's just like how my brain processes being a healer in threes, and just being very mobile and moving around and setting people up. Outside of that, probably like either Shadow Priest melee or Mage melee. Any sort of combination of whatever's good. Maybe like Feral. I mean, how about that? Yeah, I'm gonna go with Feral Shadow Priest. That's probably one I would really want to try out. Feral Shadow Priest and then Shadow Play.
I've heard that
Interesting
Feral
combo.
Shadow Priest might be good actually, because obviously Feral do a lot of damage, and that's kind of going a bit under the radar.
Yeah.
Obviously, because it's like Demon Hunters, and then this Feral's just kind of cruising underneath. No one's talking about it. And obviously Shadow Priest pumps. So that does sound like a really interesting comp to go for sure.
Another comp in terms of like just pure synergy is probably Walking Dead with Frost Decay once we
Yeah.
get the wall back.
Oh yeah.
Because then you can get the grip everyone on top of each
The
other,
tunnel
blind
of
them,
death, I call it.
blind them, put the walls up, and then they only really have one way to go out of the CC. They can't spread out, so everyone runs the same direction, and you get more cleave.
Yeah,
Oh
and the
my
sort of
God.
super slow DK as well, kind of trudging
Yeah.
out of the adequately named wall of death or tunnel of death. Sorry.
Yeah. And you could throw in your fire breast right in the middle, and you can't miss because everyone's right there. And it's just,
Exactly.
oh my goodness, it was destructive.
It'll be like the ICC dungeon where the Lich King is like chasing you down the corridor.
Yeah, that's scary. I forgot about that. I'm
throwback.
looking forward to that.
Wow.
Pit of Sour. Is it Pit of Sour? No, it's
Calls to reflection.
that's it. It was
No?
a reflection.
No.
Yeah, holds reflection. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, quick question. We've talked a lot about Arena. What about RBGs? What about in BGs?
Oh jeez, they are broken, man. There's nothing even close. I did the play with the blues, and like the amount of throughput you can do with dream projection, dream flight, and then you can even. I was running there's a talent that makes an ability temporal anomaly. Like it's a spinning like healing orb, a healing frozen orb essentially, and that applies echo. And then you can use it in interaction with Verdant Embrace that has ability called this is. I feel like this. I'm sorry, this is so complicated if you don't understand these. What these abilities are.
Fire away.
And then you Verdant Embrace, and then you have an ability called Life Bind, a talent that shares healing across everybody. So you have Dream Projection out, you have Dream Flight, and then you could also throw this massive like Life Bind, so everyone is sharing the healing among everybody. And there's just not a healer that even comes close. You're also extremely mobile. You can move characters around. You might be able to throw walls. I don't think you can make a better class in terms of RBGs, healers.
There are probably like 2 or 3 different RBG builds you can do as well. You can do the temporal anomaly one, which is the like frozen orb that gives you people absorbs.
Yep.
You can play an Emerald Blossom build as well.
Yeah.
Which is kind of reminds a lot of like what you would run in a raid as an evoker, and you can also just run the damage build as well.
Yeah, you don't even need it.
You can also run the damage build and then be like the offensive healer that goes in with the rogue and the boomy to kill the flag carrier.
Jesus.
Wow.
So triple evoker, triple preservation evoker,
And then
healers in RBGs, and
and
You
8
could-
DHs.
You could in theory play 3 preservation evokers playing 3 different builds to cover 3 different roles.
exactly,
Yeah.
and then all the DHs and a DH tank. So
Yep.
because the DH tank still does a lot of damage, I think. So if anyone
that's a little
experienced
broken.
them,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I always try to think like, what does preservation not have that can be covered? There's really not much. Maybe like a life cocoon type thing, but or like a revival immunity. Like, but then again, you have an AOE dispel with dream projection, so it's like, what do you not have?
But with a
main
revival, you don't die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The main thing that preservation doesn't have, and you don't really notice it early game in arena, but you do notice it in dampening, and you do notice it in RPGs. We don't have an external damage reduction. We have a thing called time dilation, which is kind of like it's like our pseudo box skin. It turns the damage that like 50% of the damage and 70% of your talent into it. Turns 70% of the damage you get hit by into a dot, which is kind of like the Brewmaster stagger.
Yep.
The problem is that doesn't stop the damage. Like if your tank is getting hit by 5 people, then he just has like an enormous dot on him instead.
Yeah.
So like the hole in our defensive kit is definitely, we don't have any like flat damage reduction. It's all rewind, restores healing based on heals people based on how much damage they have taken recently, which means they would need to survive in the first place. Emerald Communion is just a really, really big heal you can use in CC. And Time Dilation only spreads out the damage. So we don't have the damage reduction that might be necessary when like several people are hitting the same target.
Good to know. Still sounds really powerful though.
Yeah, it is. It is still the best healer.
Okay. Well, I think we've already figured out how to win, which is use the soon to return wall talent and just do damage. We know how to kill you, which is put you in a stun and then you're dead. The real big question though is the one thing you would change. So, you're sitting right in front of Ian Hazakostas, and he says, "All right, guys, one thing, only one thing only. Doesn't matter what it is, we'll make it happen." What would be the one thing you would change? Markers.
I got an easy one. I'm honest with classes I play. If they're strong, I totally admit to it because I don't like playing meta. I'm not a meta guy. I have this instinct of like once Evoker or Echo became instant, everyone started playing Evoker. I'm like, damn, I don't want to play Evoker anymore. That's totally. But then I played Druid, and then I'm miserable trying to heal and dampening, and I'm like, all right, I guess I have to. But I would say revert the Echo buff that they gave before. So Echo was initially 70% replication of the talent, whatever ability you use. And then this is while it was a 1.5 second cast. And then they buffed it from 70 to 105. So they made it more worthwhile using. And then they made it instant. So I think that would be an easy change to maybe kill off some of the overhealing and like the overtuned healing. Because that's your Echo ability is stronger than the initial one, which doesn't really make sense. And you can do these double reversions, and then you have talents that make both those reversions increase your healing by another 20%. And it's too much. It's too much healing. So I think if there was one thing I would change, it would be revert the Echo buff they initially put in before they made it instant. Because making it instant was a phenomenal design change and makes the class feel so much better. I would never want. I hated it. Before that change, I was so mad every time I played because you had to, you would hot and then cast, and it was just so clunky. And they changed that perfect. It's just now it's a little too strong, I think.
Okay.
Mad respect for that. I appreciate someone that kind of can, I think that's something that we get into a lot, isn't it? Where people are like, "Oh no, my class is fine. Don't nerf it, Blizzard, please."
Demon Hunter mains.
We name no names on this channel. Demon Hunters. But seriously, it's refreshing. So yeah, I appreciate that.
And a one healer meta is no fun for anybody. I don't think anyone's gonna have fun if everyone just plays the same class.
Yeah, played season 3, Shadowlands. Yep.
Yep, Holy Priest. Yep.
Holy Priest. Yep.
We all saw that.
Yep. We all played that.
What's one thing you'd ask from Ian?
I would. I think I mentioned it earlier with the disintegrate buff.
I like it.
I do think it's too easy to do damage, and it's too easy to do a lot of damage. I think if you nerfed our like current damage and push that damage into disintegrate, I do like the identity of being this aggressive tempo healer that is basically always in melee range, always pushing out CC or damage. It feels really, really good to like control the tempo of the game. But I don't feel like there's a real trade-off to it. And if we had disintegrate do our damage, you would have to consciously say, I am not going to spend essences on Echo right now, and I'm going to essence starve myself for a little bit to do damage.
Yeah.
So I think if that channel was worthwhile, because right now, I'm pretty sure some Preservation Evokers don't even have it keybound. Like it does slightly more damage than a Living Flame if the Living Flame is unbuffed by Scarlet Adaptation and our other talents. So like completely baseline, it does slightly more damage, but it costs your like most precious resource because we have so much mana anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Huh.
I the only time I found using it was during essence breaks, which is like your next essence ability is free. So in cases with that, especially, and if you're not even spec'd into the damage part, there's a talent in your spec tree that gives it 20% more damage. Even with like, if you don't have that, it's not even worth pressing. But if my two spec, I was running it, and I try to limit it to only when I have essence breaks, which are instant. Make it so it's free cost, so that you don't lose that on echo starving yourself.
Makes sense. Yeah, listening to how you guys are talking in that, it sounds like there's that little bit of I think you both are saying it. It's a great class. It's a great spec, but it's a little overtuned. Yeah.
It feels like they had our range at it was 25 yards initially and then 30. It feels like they felt like they had to compensate for that. Which they do have to be compensated in some way, because if they do the same healing as a Resto Druid in the same style, but their range is shorter, then why would you ever play an Evoker?
Yeah.
So I do feel like it's the correct design in terms of like making it very very strong. So it's a kind of like high risk high reward type healer. Um, it's just that they've made our healing so high that unless you, especially if you're not facing a coordinated team, which you often do in solo shuffle, it's so easy to just top yourself because there's going to be gaps in the CC chains even if you're in bad position. And an NS Spirit Bloom with Echo is gonna top anyone unless there's dampening.
Okay.
So it feels like we are definitely too strong, both in raw healing and in damage. I feel like I think the raw healing shouldn't be tuned down too much, just because we do have the trade off of having to charge into melee to heal and generally be very close range.
Yeah, I don't disagree there.
Mhm.
Jake,
Yeah.
do you have anything you want to change about, or are you just happy with P-Res as it sounds?
Are we talking just specifically Pres?
Yeah, we're talking just Preservation Evokers.
Let me think. I think
I thought if I could add something on it, just kind of off piggyback off what you're saying. It's something that it kind of ruins, for me at least, it ruins the vibe a little bit when it's too strong, because there's so much. People could say like Evokers, that's a high skill cap healer, right? That's something I could do so much on.
Yeah.
But you kind of lose the value in that when it's so easy, because everything is so strong. So you can you mess up your position, you mess up this. Oh, just kidding. Echo Vert Embrace, you're topped. Boom.
Yeah.
And like I mess up this and I just throw my one thing and I kill them, or I top them off. When it's such a complex design that can allow for so much creativity, but when it's so strong, it ruins the I made a sick play. I mean, everyone makes a sick play. You just press the one button.
yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly where you're going there.
I think that makes sense. Like I think everyone loves a bit of class identity, don't they? And I think that's why so many people have stuck with off meta picks. Like for example, all the enhanced shamans out there. You know, I feel with you, brothers and sisters in arms. It's you just kind of like there is something important about that. So I would the thing I would maybe like to preserve, if you don't mind, don't mind that, is the idea is the idea of that class identity with Evoker being that aggressive in your face healer. Maybe I hope that they don't try and take that away, or they don't cave maybe to some of the pressure that comes out from other people. I think I like Nethy's idea about swapping where the damage comes from, to kind of make it more balanced and more even in that regard. I think the fact that you've got 4 schools of magic is nuts. I think that's really cool. But yeah, I think just as I said, kind of maintain what the idea of preservation is, and the idea of what you're doing, and the idea of how that spec is played, especially as our first healer in such a long time. I think it needs that in order to maintain its balance from or through Dragonflight and into future expansions.
I like it. I think
It-
I'm just going to be a complete a-hole and just hope that what they institute is for every time that a preservation evoker is in melee range and gets hit, they have like a stacking debuff where they do 5% less healing until they but it has like, let's say it has like a 3-second or 4-second cooldown or countdown on it. So you fly in, you do damage, you do less healing, but then you have to fly out and let it drop before you can come back in and actually heal. It's
called Alex Starr's disappointment. It's a
I definitely get what Jake said. I feel like Mistweaver kind of fell into that trap for a long time, where it felt like Mistweaver is just a worse Resto Druid, where Mistweaver plays all Resto Druids comps, but Mistweaver is off meta. And then where in the rare occasions where Mistweaver is on meta, it's just why are you playing Resto Druid? Go on a Mistweaver.
yeah.
Yep. So I feel like so far I did mention that they kind of take Resto Shaman's place in terms of comps. But it does feel like so far they've done a good job in making the healer unique and not just feel like a weaker or stronger version of something
True.
already existing.
Yeah,
Very true. This definitely does sound like a very different healer to anything we've really seen since, I'd say, Monk. Monk was the last time we saw a very different healer.
Quite literally, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's do some news and then we'll get out of here because it's pretty late for you guys over there in Europe.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, jeez.
Who ordered up an extra large can of
2 a.m.
whoop-ass?
here.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. Sorry, not sorry. I'm enjoying this conversation though. That's the problem.
That's it. It's hard to stop. But anyway, go on.
Okay. So there's a couple tournaments. There was the Blizzard official Wrath Classic Arena tournament on the 13th. So BWG Gold and BWG Black both won. I think I got those backwards. Black was EU, Gold was NA. So congrats to those teams. I think BWG is Blackwater Gaming. I think they were saying so. Esports organization picked those teams as banner waivers. And then OTK decided to do their own Wrath tournament, but this one was a draft invitational, which was really interesting. So they had team captains, and then they pulled names out of a fishbowl, and then those captains basically got to play or got to pick their teammates out of the pool of the players that were standing around there, which was really cool, I thought. If you didn't see it, I think that was really good. It had so it was NMP LOL, Soda Poppin, and Asmund Gold were on the table, and then I'm gonna brain fart his name again. They had another guy. He was over to the side, looking like he was actually handing mics to folks in the game. To talk.
S-Fan.
S-Fan, yeah. Thanks. I just can't believe I forgot his name. Anyway,
he's Red Paladin. That makes sense.
Wow.
Just saying. Kidding.
No comment. Anyway, that was really awesome. And then they had Zico and Van Ruki shot calling it, so that was really awesome.
And Azael, don't forget Azael as well. What literal world champion?
That's true.
Azael was surprisingly good as a caster, considering
what
he's
he
like been out. He's been but he's been like out of WoW for a little bit. I imagine like shoutcasting League and shoutcasting WoW isn't like exactly the same.
No, I think League is slower pace for majority of it because obviously Arena is quite intense. So, but he did a fantastic. He's very entertaining and did a great job. So it was awesome.
He is. That's a good point. I forgot to mention that. Hot fixes. Lots and lots of hot fixes. I wrote down a few. So in Wrath Classic, the arena point cap is going to be increased from 5,000 to 10,000. They also did a hot fix to change the rating inflation, so it's being recalculated. So you'll notice that MMR is going to be increasing over time again there. And there's did you guys see the list of PVE tuning that they did that's coming with the reset? I guess actually it happened today. It'll be tomorrow be today for you guys at the EU since it's after midnight again. But like holy moly, like there was like a wide, I think like every class got hit except for evokers. But
Of course.
like do you guys think are we gonna see PvP soon?
I think so. I
We
think
have
it's.
seen
Go ahead. You got
we
it.
have seen it. We have seen a few things with like the PvP modifiers being adjusted.
But they're being removed.
Yeah, but they've removed the ones that like caused classes to be overpowered, but some of them they kept in place and some of them they buffed. So it definitely wasn't like a clean across the board removal. It did have a sign of them putting at least some thought into it. But I do like that they do it's like very very frequent tuning right now, even so close to launch. It feels like in Shadowlands, I might be misremembering, but in Shadowlands they like tuned a bunch at the start,
Yeah.
and then the last like month up to release, there wasn't really any tuning outside of hotfixing bugs with the classes, and it resulted in a extremely chaotic Shadowlands season 1 where people were just everyone had like some kind of one shot interaction with legendaries, and
Yeah.
I remember sub rogues dueling and then doing some shuriken stuff or half your HP.
That was
Uh,
the bone shard, wasn't it?
Not the bone shard. The bone shard was after, because that's
Oh.
another thing. Then they had to like very quickly patch all the broken builds, and then people
Yeah.
just found new broken builds. It was very so I'm happy that, and I feel like the fact that solo shuffle makes testing PvP on beta a lot easier.
Yeah.
Um, we will probably see like a bit better balance into season 1 than we usually do.
Yeah.
Uh, Hopefully. I mean, maybe they buffed bear damage really randomly by 50% for PvE recently, and now
Yeah.
bears are insane on pre-patch. So
That
all fun
wouldn't be
and
the
games.
first time. We'll probably see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say on top of that, I mean, they did the blues testing, so they have data that they need to do. I mean, what's the point of doing it if they don't do any changes off of it? But it always, I think it's just because it's going to come down to getting the raid tuning right first. I have a friend that works he works with Blizzard I don't exactly know the role of it, but he always just says they have to do all their raid tuning first because
Yeah.
they
Well,
can't
yeah.
put all these modifiers on an unstable ability first. So
Yeah.
hopefully they finish that up soon because clearly these are all PvE changes that everyone always says, that's just a PvE change. So, and then they hopefully should just do like a fat round of everything they wanted to modify. They know things that are too good, not good enough, and maybe we'll hope that they make the right decision on some of this stuff.
the
Hopefully.
classic way to pick a class if you're in doubt is to look at PvE tier lists and then take like the bottom 5 and then see which one of them are decent in PvP, because then you're at least guaranteed to not get nerfed in the future.
Yeah, right.
All I'm going to say is Ellie and Shadow Priest are on the bottom tier of it, so I'm feeling pretty good.
Hey,
feeling
Ellie's
very
feeling good recently. They had like a 20% buff to Lava Burst and Flame Shock.
Yeah.
And I think I got one shot by a one Lava Burst that hit 5 times for 50k each. He's like, and dead. Okay.
Well, I'll take that. That sounds good to me. I mean, I'm sold already. Don't need to oversell it.
I mean, clearly preservation is good. It doesn't need any nerfs either, so we're good there too. So
the thing is, it's good in PvE too. I watched the Mythic
Yeah.
Plus tier list; they have it at top too. But again, it's a new class; they want a selling point, so I
Yeah.
don't think it'll get changed for at least the beginning.
No, I agree. It'll be PvP is going to be fun. It's going to be, I think season 1, like always, is that little bit of chaotic. It's that little bit of everybody still learning, trying to find the meta, all that stuff. So it's what makes the game fun, really, in my opinion. But we'll see how it goes. I think that's it really for the news that I had. I think it was a bit of a shallow news week. Yes, there's a whole bunch of interviews that have happened. Nothing really talked about for PvP wise. So by all means, if you're gonna let's do a bunch of other stuff, go there. But I haven't really seen anything else on PvP. I guess the only thing I didn't put up here because I kind of forgot to. I'm not sure if it was a hot fix or what, but there was that whole thing about increasing health pools by 40%, and then they were going to change how dampening happened in Arena. But I'm not sure. Did that happen in pre-patch, or is that going to be an actual like season 1 Dragonflight? Do you guys know?
The 40% buff to HP is at level 70.
Yeah.
I don't know if they've smoothed out the stamina gain, but I know for during a period it was like if you were testing leveling, you would be like fairly low HP at level 69, and then really randomly you would just get a bunch of HP from dinging 70. I think it was the initial reasoning behind it was because healers were too strong um in PvE, and
Yeah.
they would have to buff damage to even it out, and then they wanted to increase the health pool so it's not like your health bar bouncing like this all the time.
Yeah.
But I think it has had an overall positive effect on PvP, because it has kind of minimized the amount of one shots you experience,
Okay.
and and because healing hasn't increased, it hasn't slowed down the meta too much.
That's good.
They did have to adjust warlocks, because warlocks have Dark Pact and Soul Leech and Healthstone, and they have all these things that interact with like the percentage based HP, and that's also like one of the talents for damage for Evoker. That's like causing a bit of havoc right now. Is that we like scale off the percentage as well, for specifically our damage.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, that's not
so
good.
and the dampening change, I think that was just because they wanted to like reduce healing in general, because I think in 3s, 2s, and solo shuffle you always start at 10% dampening now.
Yeah,
And
that's
I
my
think that's
understanding.
just I think that's literally just because they were like, we don't want to micro adjust every healer, so we'll just nerf healing everywhere by 10%, without it affecting RBGs or World PvP.
BFA season 4 round 2.
This not to like, I don't want to branch off to a whole other discussion on this, but this was my whole video. I was just so livid at because of that change. I like it. It helps the tempo of the game, but at the cost of every healer enjoying their life in the game. Like Evoker feels fine because the healing throughput's so high. But dude, that once dampening, because after 1 minute in the game in solo shuffle, dampening I think increases 2% every like 6 seconds, 7 seconds. So with after 2 to 3 minutes, every healer, it virtually you feel like every button you press, nothing matters. And like for Wrestle Druid, Wrestle Druid main coming from that, it feels so bad because it ramps. Once that ramp hits, you all you have is NS as a burst heal, and then that's it. And then you feel useless if they do a big burst and you're in CC and you can never recover. In terms of evokers, you have high sustain healing and you have burst healing and 15 cooldowns to use in trade.
I've definitely had a lot of games where it's Evoker against Evoker, where both Evokers are like decent. I faced both Clyde and Meh today, which are mediocre Evokers. They're known for like playing healers occasionally.
Yeah, they just picked them up the other day, right?
Yeah, I think Meh played Mage or something like that at some point. But a lot of games end in like the 80s of dampening in solo shuffle if like
Jeez.
both healers are really tryharding, where it's specifically evokers, and that doesn't feel like the natural way for a game to end. I think it's fine from like the DPS point of view, because they feel like people are very slowly dying, but using your big heal or your big cooldown and it like moving the person's health bar by 10% doesn't always feel good. And I think long term they should probably look into like making mana more relevant again, because I feel like
mana doesn't matter.
I feel like playing around a mana bar is more fun than your healing.
Dampening.
Yes, than your healing just being flatly reduced. I think like a thing they could do was like change dampening to increase the mana cost of spells instead of reducing the healing done. but that might have some way that'll end up breaking the game.
Probably.
Either that or like flag stacks where damage just keeps getting higher. That'd be fun for everybody, right?
Yeah,
DPS get to
totally.
do more damage, and healers don't feel like they're useless.
I feel like then you'll end up with the thing they were trying to prevent in PvE with like the health bars bouncing around. Like every auto attack just doing like 40% of your health.
Yeah.
Please God, no.
Wow. It's
Right.
something all I can think about is Temple of Komogu, where you have some player in the
Yeah.
middle where they're like 50 feet tall, but get one shot when they finally get hit.
Jumping towards you. Yeah.
All right, shout outs. Love you guys, but let's do you have anybody you want to shout out? Nethy, you first. Anybody out there you want to give praise to?
I mean, I wanna shout out both Clyde, which is Clydey TV. It's the guy who won the solo shuffle tournament, and Trille Bartom. They are both two people who are playing Evoker a lot on beta right now. I had a lot of fun either in Whispers or in the Twitch chat, just sharing like tech and all the crazy interactions people are discovering. They're definitely really good, so they're worth checking out their streams as well if you wanna look into playing Evoker. I know Trille plays a lot of damage build on beta at least, and Clyde has sworn never to touch the damage build because he doesn't want to get used to something that gets nerfed. So if you wanna see Evoker without doing the damage Gs, he's definitely worth watching.
Okay.
All right. I just realized I forgot to announce the heroic key giveaway, so I just typed that in chat. So, oops.
And then I would want to shout out the AD PvP Discord. That's like the Argent Dawn PvP Discord. That's the realm I play on EU. They have like their own dedicated PvP Discord, which is always a really nice community to chat about PvP with.
Yeah,
Nice.
the boys.
That sounds nice. That's good.
Yeah.
I always like the class discords. There's always usually a large number of people there that are pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Markers. Anybody you want to shout out?
I want to shout out the technically PvP podcast for having me on.
Oh, thank you.
No, yeah, thanks. This is I've seen you guys here and there. I originally saw because I play with Numbing, and I think you guys had him on at one point, and then I saw some people after that. You guys did a good job for this. I think keep it going. Hopefully, we can draw more attention to, because you guys get a lot of good guests on there, and it's kind of hard to find areas to find people talking about PvP specific stuff. A lot of WoW podcasts that are like, what's your favorite RP thing to do, and like, great for them, but we need one for us, man.
Exactly. No, I appreciate. Oh, by the way, you still have to send me your PayPal account so I can send you the payment. You're saying that?
Yes.
Thank you so much for that paid advert.
Jake, how about you? Anybody you want to shout out?
To be honest, I'm gonna shout. I was gonna basically do this anyway before Marcus stole my idea, which is basically I was gonna shout out you guys, the two of you, Nethy and Mmarkers, for coming on to talk about preservation, because this is a new class, a new healer, and I think you're kind of put on the spot here. This is, I don't want to blow the podcast trumpet or anything, but like obviously this is one of the maybe our first official time talking about Evokers as a new class, and you're kind of coming out here and basically putting your stamp on your thoughts and your feelings, in a recorded sense, because obviously people will listen to this at some point. Hopefully, if you're listening at home, please do listen to this. Hopefully you got to this end of this point to hear this. But I think that's really cool, and I think it's sort of like when people think about DH or Monk, there are some people at the start who kind of pioneered thoughts on that, and I think that's awesome. So shout out to you guys.
Oh,
thank you.
Now you stole mine.
Thank you.
It's just all about love and friendship.
It is. All right, so I guess the one other love thing I'll throw out is a quick shout out to Murloc.io, Dressfire.com, and PvPleaderboards.com for being so gracious enough to give us a little bit of space on their websites and embed the podcast over there. So if you ever want to listen to our ramblings while searching up other people in the ladder or trying to find out what people are using in PvP, go ahead and head over to those websites, and you'll be able to listen to us while you do that and do all your research. So a quick shout out to them. And all right, Mmarkers, where can people find you? We never even said this. Where can they find you on the interwebs?
So I have my Twitch and my YouTube are Mmarkers, so MMARKERS. I do just ton of my YouTube is kind of shifting more towards just all educational commentaries, occasional highlight videos, but I have a teaching degree, so I love trying to teach people things. So that's kind of like my go-to on that channel. So if you guys want to learn any Evoker stuff, I'm going to be doing more Wrestle Druid coming as well, like commentaries, breakdown of like what I do, why I do it. Definitely check out my YouTube, but then I have a lot of I do a lot of viewer content on my stream if you want to check that out, and then crush it up in some Dragonflight.
Oh yeah,
nice. I love it. You're like everywhere, man. Holy, that's awesome.
Thanks.
Nethy, where can people find you, man?
Oh, they can probably primarily on Twitter, Neffylol, at Neffylol. That's where I complain about whatever annoys me in PvP at the current time. I think really recently it's the MMR in pre-patch. So that's my that's the little hole I shout into when PvP tilts me. Otherwise, I stream occasionally on twitch.tv/Neffylol, which is I don't do educational. I just kind of hang out, chat with people, blast some music, and play WoW. So I don't have the grandiose setup. I just play the game.
He's a gamer.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
We
fine.
need those.
gamer for the gamers.
Yeah.
Love it. I love it. I guess that leaves us, Jake. Where can people find us, man?
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, firstly, if you want to reach us, you can contact us directly with a tweet to at technically_PvP or by an email to technicallypvp@gmail.com. You can also join our discussions on the Bonus Roll Productions Discord. That's I think we've put a link to that in the Twitch chat. And you can also visit us on the Bonus Roll website to find the podcast directory with us and many other great shows, and that's at www.bonusroll.gg. This new directory also has a review system, so head over there and tell everyone what you think of your favorite shows. So please do give us a nice review. Thank you.
Indeed, please, and other people there too. I mean, there's some great shows there. But as we've always do, there's going to be show notes when we post these up on the up on the interwebs. So links for everything we talked about, you can find them there. I want to thank everybody for listening, and we'll chat with you next time. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Peace.
See ya.